Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, my friends. Whatever time of day it is you are watching this recording, on whatever means of technology at your disposal. But most importantly, a Happy New Year to you, my friends. 2025 is over, and now we go into 2026. In this video, I decided to do a little year-in-review presentation of all the photos and some of the video I shot back in 2025. In the future, I may do some retro videos on photos taken a few years ago, so be on the lookout for those. However, for this presentation, it's all about the calendar year 2025. Back in late 2024, I purchased a Canon Rebel T8i camera. I know there are some who were trying to convince me to get an even more advanced model, such as one of the Mark series, but since I'm trying to watch my spending, and I'm still a little bit of a noob when it comes to photography, I went with the Rebel. In addition, I also use a GoPro Hero 9 Black. All of the video footage you saw in my previous two videos were shot with that GoPro. Alright, enough of my yammering, let's just get to the photos and video. Keep in mind, some of these photos were also taken with my cell phone camera. In case you're wondering, I am Team Samsung. Now, this first shot was taken on January 6, 2025. I happen to be an employee of the New York City subway, and I worked the N Monday to Thursday. We had some snow that day, and I decided to take a photo. This is looking south from Astoria Ditmars Boulevard station. Thankfully, this past winter's snowfall was nowhere near as bad as in years past. I've worked in worse snowstorms. It's no fun, I'll tell you that much. This photo was taken at the beginning of March. On Sundays, I work the Q line. This is R68 subway car 2536 at 96th Street, 2nd Avenue station. I operated this train southbound from 96th Street to Stillwell Avenue down in Coney Island. Now, you're probably saying, but MotorCat, R68 equipment runs on the queue all the time. Yes, it does. However, this very consist actually belongs to the Concourse Yard up in the Bronx, which serves trains that run in D service. Trains that run in Q service are stored at the Coney Island Yard Complex. So basically, this was a loaner from the D line. It was a beauty. I did enjoy operating it. And here it is again, down at Stillwell Avenue Station, right after I finished the trip with it. A few Sundays later, Q train service was terminating southbound at Kings Highway Station for the weekend. Of course, this means that shuttle bus service was needed between Kings Highway and East 16th Street in the Midwood section of Brooklyn, and Stillwell and Surf Avenues down in Coney Island. Here's one of those shuttle buses. This is New York City Transit Bus 434 in Q shuttle service on Quentin Road and East 16th Street near the southern entrance to Kings Highway Station. 434 is a 2012 C40LF by New Flyer Industries. This bus is assigned to the Jackie Gleason Bus Depot in the Sunset Park neighborhood in Brooklyn. The C stands for compressed natural gas, or CNG. The 40 refers to the bus length, 40 feet in this case, and the LF refers to the fact that this is a low-floor bus. Low-floor buses are common in transit systems, thanks to the Americans with Disabilities Act of 1990. Here we have another bus in Q shuttle service. This is 7673, a 2018 New Flyer Industries XD40 or Excelsior class bus. You might remember seeing a few of these in my 5-day trip to Toronto and Western New York video. This bus is assigned to the East New York Depot in Brooklyn. 7630, also in Q shuttle service to Stillwell Avenue. This is another 2018 New Flyer XD40 Excelsior. This bus is assigned to the Flatbush Depot, located in the Flatlands section of Southeast Brooklyn, right by the Kings Plaza Mall. Back to the subway stuff. Here's New York City subway car 6192 in N service at 96th Street and 2nd Avenue station. Now, what is an N doing up at 96th Street? Well, There is limited N-train service to and from 96th Street and 2nd Avenue during the morning and afternoon rush hours. As a matter of fact, I happen to do a morning trip out of 96th Street and later an afternoon trip to 96th Street. But anyway, 6192 is a late 1970s R46 model made by the now defunct Pullman Standard Company and later refurbished by Morrison Knudsen in the early 1990s during the MTA's General Overhaul program. This particular consist had just completed its life on A and C service. Both of those lines are now all new technology trains, in particular the brand new R211. It is now the end of March, and another Sunday with Q service terminating at Kings Highway because of track work. So that means more shuttle buses. Here's 7912, a 2021 New Flyer Industries XD40. This is also an East New York Depot bus. Here's another 2012 New Flyer C40LF. 361, just finishing up shuttle service and about to run dark to the Jackie Gleason Depot in the Sunset Park section of Brooklyn. Now, when a bus runs dark, it means it's running from one point to another without customers. When it comes to trains, we call it running light. Rail fans like to say, oh, it's deadheading, but it's really not, at least not in New York City Transit. With us, employees deadhead, but vehicles run light in the case of trains, or dark in the case of buses. The more you know. 455, another 2012 New Flyer C40LF in Q shuttle service, another one of Jackie Gleason Depot's equipment. Back to the subway, here's R46 car 6030 in N service at Stillwell Avenue Terminal. I believe this was taken at the very tail end of March. It is now April the 5th, and our friends over at the Metropolitan New York Bus Association's chapter of the Motor Bus Society ran a short trip. This trip was with the bus you see on your screen, 748. This is a 1958 General Motors Corporation, or GMC, Old Look, or a TDH-5105 bus, which belongs to Liberty Lines Transit, which is the parent company of Westchester B Lines. These buses were popular in both the United States and Canada and were manufactured between about 1940 and about 1969. The majority of production was discontinued after about 1959 when the larger New Look or fishbowl model was introduced. The T refers to a transit bus. The D refers to a diesel engine as opposed to a regular gasoline-powered engine. The H refers to a hydraulic or automatic transmission as opposed to a manual transmission or even electric propulsion. As for the four-digit number, the 51 refers to the seating capacity, which is 51 for a 40-foot bus, while the 05 is merely a series number that GMC gave out. This is 748 at 242nd Street and Broadway in the Riverdale section of the Bronx, near the Van Cortlandt Park subway terminal on the 1 line. Here we have 748 on Fanshawe Avenue and Broadway up in Yonkers. And there's 748 with the Broadway Diner in the background. Unfortunately, as far as I've been informed, this diner is now permanently closed. What a shame. Here we see 748 with Westchester B Line's bus 334 in 2-line service, which is going up towards the Tudor Woods apartment complex. 334 is a 2018 New Flyer XDE60, a 60-foot articulated hybrid Excelsior. Here we've got 748 at McLean Avenue and Broadway up in Yonkers. Here we've got Westchester B Line's bus 308 in 4 service up at McLean Avenue and Broadway, another 2018 New Flyer articulated hybrid Excelsior. 4 service runs between Metro North's Yonkers station and the Bedford Park Boulevard subway station on Jerome Avenue, which serves the 4 subway line. So you can take the 4 bus to the 4 train and vice versa. Now we've got 748 up at Vark Street and Broadway up in Yonkers. Behind 748 is B-Line's Bus 377 in 4 service, another 2018 New Flyer XDE 60 Arctic. Here we've got 748 on Hudson Street and Broadway in Yonkers. This is Westchester B-Line's Bus 289. This is a 2009 40-foot low-floor hybrid made by North American Bus Industries, or NABI, or NABI. It is the second oldest model actively running in Westchester as of this recording. And here we've got 748 at Metro North's Yonkers station. I wound up leaving the trip here since I had a few personal tasks I had to take care of. 2 more bus pictures at Metro North's Yonkers station. Here's 305, another 2018 New Flyer 60-foot hybrid Excelsior. This one's in 7 service. The 7 route operates between the Yonkers Railroad Station and the New Rochelle Transit Center. This 7 route basically serves all 3 of Metro North's main corridors: Hudson at Yonkers, Harlem at Mount Vernon West, and New Haven at New Rochelle. And here we have 748 on the left with Westchester B-Line's Bus 265 on the right. 265 is another 2009 NABI 40-foot low-floor hybrid. Okay, back to Kings Highway on the Brighton Beach BMT corridor. This is R46 car 5670 on A3 track, which is the southbound express track at Kings Highway. Once again, Q service was terminating at Kings Highway because of track work. This train was simply laid up on the express track as it was used as an office train by Q crews at Kings Highway. Sometimes, you just want to escape the elements. All right, it is now May 10th. I joined my friends at the Metropolitan New York Bus Association chapter of the Motor Bus Society for a trip to Connecticut and Massachusetts. The first location we visited was the CT Transit Garage in Stamford. CT Transit, or Connecticut Transit, serves the metropolitan areas of many of the major cities in Connecticut, such as Stamford, Hartford, New Haven, New Britain, and Wallingford, just to name a few. Here we've got one of the oldest buses still currently in use by CT Transit, 722. 722 is a 2007 New Flyer D40LF. From what I understand, the 2007 D40LF is the 3rd oldest bus model currently in use by CT Transit, as of this recording, of course. Here we've got another 2007 D40LF. This is 741. The New Flyer D40LF is basically the diesel-powered version of New York's C40LF, which is CNG or compressed natural gas powered. Here's 1061. This is a 2010 Nova Bus LFS Arctic, a 60-foot articulated bus. A total of 25 of these were ordered back in 2010. 13 of these were assigned to the Stamford garage, while the other 12 are assigned to the garage in New Haven. The same goes for 1062 inside the garage. 1211, this is a 2011 New Flyer XDE40 Excelsior hybrid model. 4 of these were ordered. This is the only one that is a 2011 model, while the other 3 are 2012 models. And now we have some 2014 Excelsior hybrid models. We begin with 1403. 1406 coming into the garage after finishing up in 326 service. 1412. Here's 1413. Here's 1414. 1415. This is 1417. 1419, 1424, and 1481. 2069, this is a 2020 New Flyer XD40. 2071, another 2020 New Flyer XD40 Excelsior. 2069 and 2071 are actually assigned to the CT Transit's Hartford garage, which happens to be their largest division. Here we've got some brand new 2024 New Flyer XE40 Excelsior charge buses. These are battery-powered electric buses. We start with 2432, 2433, here's 2438, this is 2439, 2440, 2441, and finally 2444. Here we've got a couple of group shots. 1406, the 2014 New Flyer Excelsior Hybrid with 741 in the background, the 2007 New Flyer D40LF. In the background is 2438, the 2024 New Flyer Excelsior Charge Battery Electric. Here we've got 1416, another 2014 New Flyer XDE40 on the left with 734, another 2007 New Flyer 40-foot diesel. And here we have a train shot on the Northeast Corridor in Stamford. This is Metro North Locomotive 102. This is a work service locomotive, a 1964 GP35R by Electromotive Diesel, or EMD, which was once a division of General Motors. This locomotive once belonged to the Pennsylvania Railroad, later Penn Central, after the merger with the New York Central, and later Conrail, where it was numbered 2271. After lunch in Torrington, Connecticut, we then went to Western Massachusetts. The Berkshire Regional Transit Authority, or BRTA, provides bus service in the city of Pittsfield, as well as Berkshire County, Massachusetts. We are now at the Joseph Selzy Intermodal Transportation Center in Pittsfield, a city which isn't too far from the border with New York State. Here we've got bus service from both BRTA as well as intercity buses. In addition, we've got Amtrak service between here and Albany, mainly for the Lakeshore Limited train, which runs to and from Chicago. Unfortunately, no railroad pictures here, but a few BRTA photos. This is bus 2402, a 2024 Gillig low-floor 35-foot hybrid electric Advantage model. This is the newest of the fleet. 2024 was BRTA's 50th anniversary, so these new buses were decked out in the colors of earlier decades. As you can see, 2402 is in the 1980s livery of white with double orange stripes. 2405, another 2024 35-foot Gillig hybrid. This one is in the 1990s livery, white with an orange and blue stripe. This bus looks disturbingly a lot like the road jersey for the New York Islanders. Go Rangers. Here's 1850. This is a 2018 35-foot Gillig Advantage, a non-hybrid model. Here we've got another newbie, 2403, another 2024 Gillig Advantage hybrid in the 1990s colors. And here it is entering one service. The one route runs up to the Walmart in North Adams, Massachusetts. We then stopped off at the Berkshire Scenic Railway Museum in Lenox, Massachusetts. Sadly, this museum was closed and there were no exhibits or rides to take, so the only photos I could take were of the right-of-way and the beautiful Housatonic River. Our last stop on this day was the Springfield Union Station in Springfield, Massachusetts. Union Station serves Amtrak's Springfield to New Haven corridor, which is also served by CT Rail. the Connecticut Department of Transportation's rail service between New Haven and Springfield, as well as Amtrak's Vermonter service between Washington, D.C. and St. Albans, Vermont, as well as the Boston to Albany portion of the Lakeshore Limited train to Chicago. Union Station also has a bus terminal, which serves inner-city providers Peter Pan, which is based in Springfield, and Greyhound, as well as service from the Pioneer Valley Transit Authority, or PVTA. The PVTA provides bus service in western Massachusetts, Pioneer or Connecticut River Valley, mainly Springfield, Northampton, and Amherst. The first shot you see here is of bus 1733 in B4 service. Their routes usually have a letter and a number, not unlike New York City. The only difference here is that in New York City, the letter usually refers to the borough in which the bus operates. 1733 is a 2023 New Flyer Industries XD35, a 35-foot Excelsior. CT Transit also has a few of these. And now for some railroad equipment. Upstairs at Union Station, this is Amtrak Locomotive 46, a 1997 General Electric P42 DC locomotive, or a Genesis class locomotive. This engine is running in shuttle service to New Haven. Here we've got Locomotive 93, another 1997 GE Genesis model. I believe this was going to be used in Lakeshore Limited service, but I could be wrong. Back downstairs to the buses, here's 1654. This is a 2010 Gillig 40-foot low-floor Advantage model. Gillig haters, I know you are seething in rage at the sight of this, but it's there. I mean, what do you want from me, man? More salt for the Gillig haters. Here's 1652, another 2010 40-foot Gillig Advantage. So in June, I took my mother to Chicago for a few days. We rode Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited from Grand Central to Union Station. We each had bedrooms. Here's a shot of mine. Nice and neat, isn't it? Now this right here is some addictive stuff. This is a butter cake from Frank and Louie's Italian Specialties in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. I believe the company is now called Pazzo Italiano. Amtrak serves these as a dessert option. Now, these were so damn good, I was almost willing to whore myself out to get more of these. But I'm not going to go all the way to Delaware for this. Besides, I'm trying to avoid gaining weight and, developing diabetes. Nope, don't need the beets. Now, the Lakeshore Limited is a 19-and-a-half-hour ride between New York and Chicago. I actually woke up at 4 in the morning when we were stopped off in Cleveland. I managed to get a nice dark photo of Huntington Bank Stadium, which is the home of the NFL's Cleveland Browns. This stadium is sadly nicknamed the Factory of Sadness. The Browns have been nothing short of terrible since their return to the NFL in 1999. We made it to Chicago the following morning a little after 9 a.m. Central Time. Here's Rate Field, formerly known as Comiskey Park, the home of the Chicago White Sox. This is baseball's version of the Factory of Sadness, the way the White Sox have been playing recently. We arrive at Union Station in Chicago at about 9:45 a.m. Central Time. Here's Amtrak Locomotive 82, which was the head-out engine on our Lakeshore Limited train. If I'm not mistaken, the locomotive change is done in Albany. 82 is a 1997 General Electric P42 DC or Genesis locomotive. Yes, the same types you saw in Springfield. Unlike passenger locomotives of the past, the Genesis class is lighter in weight, which allows it faster speeds. Now, I'm certain we also had a Genesis leaving Penn Station in New York, but that was more than likely a P32 AC dual mode, which allows it to operate as either a diesel or an electric engine. Of course I've got Chicago bus photos, why wouldn't I? Here is Chicago Transit Authority Bus 8944, a brand new 2025 Novabus LFS on Adams and South Wells Street in the Loop section, fresh off the assembly line in Plattsburgh, New York. I got this photo as we were walking from Union Station to our hotel. The following morning, here's CTA Bus 4066 on Adams and LaSalle Streets. 4066 is a 2008 New Flyer Industries DE60LF, a 60-foot articulated hybrid in 134 service. 134 is an express route which runs from Adams Street and Wacker Drive in the Loop section to Sheridan Road and Belmont Avenue in the Lakeview section. The latter is Chicago's version of Greenwich Village or San Francisco's Castro District. Here's bus 7907, a 2014 Nova Bus LFS in 28 service on Adams and State Streets. State Street, that great street, as Frank Sinatra once sang, is Chicago's most historic street with shops, museums, theaters, and other landmarks. After a visit to the Field Museum, we have some commuter railroad action at 11th Street Museum Campus Station. This station is served by both Metra's Electric District and the Northern Indiana Commuter Transportation District's South Shore Line. Both services terminate at nearby Millennium Station at the north end of Millennium Park on Randolph Street. The Electric District, which is a service operated by Metra, the commuter rail system in the Chicago metropolitan area, runs to either 93rd Street on Chicago's South Side, University Park in Will County, or Blue Island. Now, the South Shore Line, which runs on the tracks of the old Chicago South Shore and South Bend Railroad, runs trains to the northwestern suburbs in the state of Indiana and terminate at the South Bend International Airport. Here we see some Metro Electric District trains at 11th Street Museum Campus Station. In the background is Soldier Field, the home of the NFL Chicago Bears. 11th Street Museum Campus serves Soldier Field, and Metro will run extra service on game days. Here we see that same Metro train heading towards Millennium Park. Here's another shot looking north with Soldier Field in the background. And here we have a South Shore train. And now let's have some video footage. Time for some L action. Here's 5004 in Pink Line service at Quincy Station on Quincy and South Wells Street. The Pink Line is an east-west line, which runs from 54th Street and Chermack Road in Cicero to the Washington Wells Station in the Loop on Washington and North Wells Streets, a few blocks from City Hall, the Opera House, and the Mercantile Exchange. 5004 is a 2008 5000 series car made by Canadian manufacturer Bombardier, which has also made subway cars for the New York City subway, as well as rail cars for the LARR, Metro North, and Amtrak. This is car 3435 in Orange Line service at Quincy Station. This is an early 1990s 3200 series made by the now defunct American manufacturer Morrison Knudsen. The Orange Line is a north-south line beginning at Midway Airport and terminating at Adams and Wabash in the Loop. Here's another Bombardier 5000 series from the early 2010s. This is 5046 in Pink Line service at Adams Wabash Station, which is located about 2 to 3 blocks from the hotel we were staying at. I actually took a short ride on this baby from Washington Wells to Adams Wabash. As legendary sports reporter Warner Wolf used to say, let's go to the videotape.
is next. Doors open on the right at Ebbets and Wabash. Transfer to green, purple, and brown line trains at Ebbets and Wabash. This is Ebbets and Wabash. Transfer to green, purple, and brown line trains at Ebbets and Wabash. This is an orange line train to Midway.
Back to the photos. This was on our final day in Chicago. This is bus 4350 and 146 service on Washington and State Streets, right across the street from the old legendary Marshall Fields building, which is now a Macy's. 4350 is a 2012 New Flyer D60 LFR, a 60-foot articulated bus. Now, the 146 route runs north-south from the museum campus, where the Fields Museum and Soldier Field are located, to the Berwyn station on the Red Line in the Edgewater neighborhood via the Lakeshore Drive, aka US Route 41. On our way to Union Station, I just had to get this shot of the view of the Chicago River on Adams Street. On Canal Street behind Union Station, we've got bus 8656, a brand new Nova Bus LFS. 1245, this is a 2005 New Flyer D40 LF. This is one of the oldest buses running for CTA as of the time of this recording. We caught the Amtrak Cardinal at Union Station at 5 p.m. We arrived a few hours later in Indianapolis for a stopover. I got out and took a video of a CSX move in Indy. Now, we spent many hours more than we were supposed to in Indianapolis. Why? Because there had been a minor CSX derailment up ahead in the Cincinnati area. Our train ran about 11 hours late. We were due in New York City at about 10 p.m. on Friday night. Well, we didn't arrive until about 9 a.m. on Saturday morning. It was agony. If only I didn't fear flying. So here's a photo of the Great Miami River in Hamilton, Ohio. We reached Cincinnati on Friday morning. Here's Paycor Stadium, the home of the NFL's Cincinnati Bengals. We didn't reach Washington, D.C. and the Northeast Corridor until Saturday morning. Here's Amtrak Locomotive 301. This is a 2021 ALC-42 Charger made by the German company Siemens. This locomotive was delivered in the 50th anniversary delivery for Amtrak. 2021 was Amtrak's 50th anniversary of creation. So, does this look familiar? This is Tompkins Consolidated Area Transit, or TCAT Bus 1113 at the TCAT Garage in Ithaca, New York on August 9th. This is a 2011 Orion Bus Industries Orion 7 EPA 10. EPA-10 became the new name for the next generation Orion 7 models, thanks to the Environmental Protection Agency's 2010 emission standards. We also took a short ride on this bus from the TCAT garage to a separate storage facility where Proterra electric buses were being stored after being removed from service. If you want to see more of that, check out the Toronto and Western New York 5-day video. The link will be in the description. Also at the TCAT garage, we've got 2508, a brand new 2025 Gillig 40-foot low-floor electric Advantage. Hey Gillig haters, are you seething with rage yet? The following day, up at Eglinton Avenue East and Pharmacy Avenue in Toronto, we got bus 3380, the 1967 TDH-5303 New Look, or Fishbowl, made by General Motors Diesel Division of Canada. This bus is owned by the Canadian-based model train company Rapido Trains. The T represents a transit bus, as opposed to a suburban, which has softer seats for longer rides, which an express or intercity bus would have. The D represents a diesel engine. In this case, it's a Detroit Diesel 6V71 six-cylinder engine. The H represents a hydraulic or automatic transmission. The 5.3 refers to a 40-foot bus, or a seating capacity of 53, while the 03 is simply a series number GM came up with. What can I tell you? We took this baby for a ride for most of the day, checking out the future Toronto Transit Commission's Line 5 along Eglinton Avenue, and visiting a few TTC garages, plus Skyway coaches in Markham. Once again, if you want to see more of that, check out the Toronto and Western New York 5-day video. The following day, on August 11th, we took GO Transit's Lakeshore West from Oakville to Exhibition Station in Toronto on our way to dinner at Wheat Sheaf Tavern on King and Bathurst Streets. Now, here are some photos I didn't show in the other video. This is BMO Field. This is the home of both the Canadian Football League's Toronto Argonauts as well as Major League Soccer's Toronto Football Club. This stadium was built on the exact location of the old Exhibition Stadium, which was the home of the Argonauts from 1959 to 1988, and the Toronto Blue Jays from 1977 to 1989, until Skydome, which is now known as Rogers Center, opened in 1989. Here's a fun fact for you. I actually attended a game at Rogers Center back in 2018. It was the Yankees versus the Toronto Blue Jays. That was the first time I visited Toronto. If I ever do find those photos, maybe someday I'll do a slideshow. And right next door, we've got the Coca-Cola Coliseum, which was once known as the Canadian National Exhibition Coliseum. This is the home of the American Hockey League's Toronto Marlies, which is a minor league affiliate of the Toronto Maple Leafs, and also the Toronto Scepters of the Professional Women's Hockey League. This arena is famous for hosting the Royal Agricultural Winter Fair since 1922. The following day, August 12th, we did an On Our Own day. This photo was taken at Union Station in Toronto. This is Via Rail Canada Locomotive 6411. This is a mid-1980s F40PH-2 locomotive made by General Motors Diesel Division. From what I understand, these are the oldest of the passenger locomotives Via Rail uses, as of this recording, of course. Via Rail is Canada's version of Amtrak, as they run intercity passenger rail service. And this photo was taken on Wednesday morning, August 13th, just before we checked out and headed home to the States. This is Oakville Transit Bus 2413 on Cross Avenue in Oakville, Ontario, at the GO Transit Oakville station. This is a 2024 Nova Bus LFS E+, a battery electric bus. As you probably already know, Canada is going electric with its public transportation. Back home to New York City at the end of August, our 68A equipment in queue service at Stillwell Avenue in Coney Island. This is car 5200 made by Kawasaki in 1989. Now, what is significant about 5200? This is the final SME type car ever made. SME stands for Self-Lapping Mechanical Electrical Equipment. About a decade after this particular subway car was built, new technology equipment debuted in the system, with R142 equipment in the IRT. September 8th in Astoria, Queens, here we have New York City Transit's MetroCard sales bus on Ditmars Boulevard and 31st Street, right around the corner from Ditmars Boulevard station where N&W service terminate. This is a retired 1996 Novabus Rapid Transit Series, or RTS, which was a very popular and very polarizing model. From the late 1970s all the way to the early 2010s, the RTS was produced first by GMC, then by the Transportation Manufacturing Corporation, or TMC, then by Novabus, and the last series was produced by the now defunct Millennium Transit Services. This bus is numbered 8797 and was converted for use as the MetroCard sales bus. I guess as soon as the MetroCard is retired, it will now be an Omni sales bus. About 2 weeks later, here's a photo I took at Coney Island Stillwell Avenue Terminal. R46 subway car 6058 on 2-track, about to begin northbound end service. I actually operated this train northbound to Ditmars Boulevard on my lunch trip. That is, once I made it to Ditmars, it was my lunch period. As far as I know, as of this recording, this set is still active. I'm really not looking forward to not seeing or not operating this equipment in the future. September 27th, and our trip to Pennsylvania with MNYBA. This was taken at the Allentown Transportation Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania. This was our charter bus, 7535, the 2025 Academy Bus Lines Mercedes-Benz Tour Rider. An outstanding bus, at least in my opinion. Up until this trip, we always chartered buses from Coach Tours based out of Brookfield, Connecticut. Our regular driver was set to retire at the end of the year, so MNYBA went with Academy Bus Lines. The driver and the bus were both excellent, in my opinion. Over at the Allentown Fairgrounds, if you watched the Pennsylvania trip video, you remember Bus 7326, the retired Lehigh and Northampton Transportation Authority 1973 GMC Fishbowl. We rode this baby from the Allentown Transportation Center to the Allentown Fairgrounds. If you want to see that, there is a link to that video in the description. That is, if you're watching this on a PC, cell phone, or tablet. Early October takes us down to South Brooklyn. This was at Coney Island Yard. Because of federal mandates, every 3 years, train operators, which I happen to be, and conductors have to be refreshed in their duties. For me, it was 3 days. Day 1 was at Coney Island Yard for training at the fire school. Here we see retired subway car 4028. This is a late 1960s R38 made by the now defunct St. Louis Car Company, which produced much of New York City's subway equipment from the early 20th century all the way to the early 1970s before the company ceased operations in 1974. This car and its mate, 4029, are preserved by the New York Transit Museum. 3356 is a mid-1960s R32 subway car made by the now defunct Bud Company, which made subway equipment for New York City up until the 1960s, but was more famous for making rail cars for American railroads. I will say this, I hated operating these, especially when I was brand new, but now I would almost give anything to operate one in service again. Speaking of equipment I hated operating, here is car 4665. This is a late 1960s, early 1970s R42 subway car made by the St. Louis Car Company. I took this photo on the 3rd day of my refresher. The 2nd day was in downtown Brooklyn at New York City Transit headquarters for classroom time, while day 3 was back at Coney Island Yard to be refreshed in cuts and adds, or decoupling and coupling, as well as other aspects such as troubleshooting. Anyway, what's special about 4665? Well, it was preserved by the Railway Preservation Corporation, but if you remember the Williamsburg Bridge incident of 1995, its former mate, 4664, was so badly damaged that it was scrapped. As you can see, 4665 also has the late 1980s, early 1990s general overhaul look, the blue stripe with the blue storm door. Alright, less than a week before Halloween, I took my mother up to Sleepy Hollow, New York, being that she is a Halloween buff and loves the Headless Horseman novel. We just missed the New York City bound train and had to wait about an hour for the next one. One positive is that it gave me some photo opportunities at Phillips Manor Station. The first one is a Croton-Harmon bound train, 4116. This is a mid-2000s N7 rail car made by Canadian manufacturer Bombardier. If you remember my Toronto and Western New York video, Bombardier also made Toronto's light rail and subway cars. And now, let's do some video footage. The first is a Grand Central bound train that originated in Poughkeepsie, which is the northern terminal of Metro North's Hudson Line. The train consists of shoreliner cars with locomotive 227 pushing. The second is a Poughkeepsie bound train with locomotive 225 pulling shoreliner cars. 225 and 227 are both 2001 General Electric P32 AC dual-mode Genesis class locomotives. Metro North uses dual-mode locomotives thanks to the fact that emissions under Manhattan, notably the East River tubes, as well as the rail tunnels out of Grand Central Terminal and Penn Station, have been a concern since the days of the New York Central and the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad. This is why EMD FL9 locomotives were developed in the late 1950s. As for the last video, this is Amtrak's Lakeshore Limited going towards Chicago. This one caught me by surprise, so I began filming a little late. Locomotive 716 is in the lead. This is a 1995 GE P32 AC dual-mode Genesis. Once the train gets to Albany, there will be an engine change. Early November now takes us to Coney Island. This is bus 7935, a 2021 New Flyer Industries XD40, operating in N-Train shuttle service at Stillwell and Surf Avenues. On this day, there was a once-a-month midday service change where there is no N service between 86th Street and Stillwell Avenue from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. because of monthly signal and track inspections. After my first half trip, my next one wasn't scheduled until about 5 hours later, so once I went to get lunch, I decided to photograph one of the shuttle buses being used. About a week later, I decided to get another shot of subway car 5200, this time at Ditmars Boulevard in Astoria in N service. As I said earlier, 5200 is the final SME subway car ever constructed for the New York City subway back in 1989. Late November now, the Saturday before Thanksgiving, as I was on my way to Long Island to meet up with friends for dinner, I decided to get a shot of this bus. This is 6275, a 2020 New Flyer D60LF, a 60-foot articulated bus used for Q70 LaGuardia Link service. This service has existed since 2013, and aside from Terminals B and C at LaGuardia Airport, It serves the 74th Street Roosevelt Avenue complex, or as I like to call it, the Times Square of Queens, as well as 61st Street and Roosevelt Avenue, the location of the Woodside Station on the Long Island Railroad, which serves both the Long Island Railroad main line as well as the Port Washington branch. The following day, the Sunday before Thanksgiving, for the second weekend in a row, Q train service was operating between 96th Street and Prospect Park because of switch rehab work at Kings Highway. Here we have mid-1970s R46 subway car 5822 in Q service at Prospect Park Station. This was the South Motor. This train was about to go into northbound or 96th Street bound service. 1 week later, the Sunday after Thanksgiving and the final day of November was the final weekend of Q service terminating southbound at Prospect Park. Of course, you know what this means, shuttle buses. This is New York City Transit Bus 784 in Q shuttle service. This is a 2022 New Flyer XD40 or Excelsior model. This bus is assigned to the Ulmer Park Bus Depot in the Bath Beach section of Brooklyn, which is in the southwestern part of Kings County. And here we have 7887, a 2021 New Flyer Excelsior in Q shuttle service. This bus is assigned to the Fresh Pond Depot in Ridgewood, Queens, right next to Fresh Pond Subway Yard, which serves trains that run in M service. One more subway shot for November. This is R46 subway car 5580 downstairs at Prospect Park Station, the south motor of a train that is about to enter 96th Street bound service. Prospect Park is also the southern terminal for the Franklin Avenue shuttle, which makes 4 station stops between Prospect Park Station and Franklin Avenue, Fulton Street. Just north of here is where the infamous Malbone Street wreck occurred on November 1st, 1918. The train operator or motorman of a Fulton Street elevated train, who did not have much experience operating trains, went around a curve at somewhere between 30 to 40 miles an hour, where the speed limit was only 6 miles an hour. Nearly 100 people were killed and about 250 were injured. It was so bad that nearby Ebbets Field was used as a makeshift triage and morgue. To this day, it remains the deadliest accident in New York City subway history. Now, if you want to learn more about the 1918 Malbone Street wreck, YouTuber Mystic Transit did a fantastic video on the subject. I will link the video in the description. Speaking of which, this view is looking east on Empire Boulevard in the Flatbush section of Brooklyn. Empire Boulevard was once known as Malbone Street, but the name was changed about a month after the accident. Anyway, that tall set of buildings you see in the center are the Ebbets Field Apartments. They were built on the site of what once was the home of the Brooklyn Dodgers, as the stadium was torn down in 1961, 3 years after the Dodgers left for Los Angeles. Prospect Park Station, which currently serves the Brighton Beach BMT corridor and the Franklin Avenue shuttle, served Ebbets Field, though at the time it was the Brighton Beach BMT corridor and the BMT Fulton Street elevated. And now we get to the final month, December. This is R68A car 5200, again. This time I decided to get an interior shot of the final SME car ever made. This was taken at Astoria Boulevard Station in Astoria, Queens. On the following day I took this photo. This is on the New York Connecting Railroad and Amtrak Northeast Corridor. This is CSX Locomotive 484 with Locomotive 475 in Astoria, Queens. Both of these are year 2000 General Electric AC-44 CWs, 4,400 horsepower locomotives pulling a freight consist. This freight sat at this location for about 20 minutes. Now, about 10 minutes after I took this photo, they finally moved out, heading towards Oak Point Yard up in the Bronx. As I mentioned, this is also Amtrak's Northeast Corridor between New York and Boston. I did notice a northbound Amtrak train running around the freight. December 7th, 2025. Every December, the New York City Transit Authority operates vintage subway equipment for the holiday season on weekends. Every Sunday in December 2025, R1 through R9 equipment ran from 96th Street and 2nd Avenue Station down to 2nd Avenue Houston Street Station via the Q and F lines. I was able to get photos and footage on that first Sunday, thanks to the fact that I had a schedule that allowed me to be at 96th Street during this time. Here's 1802, a 1940 R9 subway car built by the now defunct Press Steel Car Company. This equipment was originally built for the old Independent Subway System, or IND. 1940 was also the year the 6th Avenue IND corridor opened. They finished their career on the Jamaica Avenue BMT corridor, which is served by J Service. 1802 was the final R9 ever built and was preserved thanks to the Railway Preservation Corporation. And here's 1300. This is a 1936 R6 subway car on the head-out end of the consist at 96th Street. R6 equipment was actually built by 3 different manufacturers: the Press Steel Car Company, the Pullman Company, later known as Pullman Standard, and the American Car and Foundry Company, the latter of which is still around, believe it or not. And now here's some video footage of the holiday train leaving 96th Street Station.
Go ahead for the holiday train. Yeah, you're going back down. What else? What's the route? What's the route?
There we go. Now gotta leave.
Alright, damn it. You want photos of R211 equipment? Fine, you got it. This was on December 10th at Coney Island Stillwell Avenue Station. Here we see R211 car 3560 at Stillwell Avenue Station on 2-track, which is the C Beach or N-line pocket. Now this is actually what we call a put-in, not to be confused with the leader of Russia. This train was coming from Coney Island Yard in order to go into B as in Bravo service at Brighton Beach. Any train in B service going into or being taken out of service has to go through Stillwell Avenue Terminal in order to get to or from the yard. That is because there is no direct connection between the Brighton Beach BMT corridor and Coney Island Yard. Alrighty, December 14th, the second Sunday of the R1 through R9 holiday train. Here it is at about 10:30 a.m., entering 96th Street Station on its first trip. Speaking of holiday trains, here is one of Metro North Railroad's beauties entering Harlem 125th Street Station on December 20th, a little after 12 noon. The following morning, back to 96th Street Station and the New York City subway holiday train entering 96th Street yet again on its first trip. The consist was turned around with R6 1300 as the north motor and R9 1802 as the south motor. Here's one shot of significance. This is 1931 R1 car 381. As I mentioned earlier, the R1 through R9 equipment was built specifically for, at the time, the newly created Independent Subway System, or IND. 381 has been preserved thanks to the Railway Preservation Corporation. Now, you notice the 880 number plate on the car. The real 880, which was an R4 subway car, was retired back in the late 1970s. The 880 was there from a couple of years ago when a crew from the now defunct WCBS News Radio 880 was covering the holiday train. In September of 2024, WCBS became WHSQ, which is now New York City's ESPN radio affiliate. Later that day at Stillwell Avenue in Coney Island, here we have what I like to refer to as Frankenstein's monster. On the left is R68A car 5094, while on the right we've got R68 car 2812 in Q service. It is unbelievably rare to see an R68 and R68A added up together, but sometimes it happens. And our final shot, this was taken on December 30th, once again at Coney Island Stillwell Avenue Terminal. Here we see both cars 5001 and 5002, R68A equipment in N service. Now, remember how 5200 was the final SME car ever made? Well, 5001 and 5002 were the first of the R68As produced in the late 1980s by Kawasaki. I've operated these many times, and I used to hate operating them. I used to absolutely hate operating them, but mainly because of the ECAM, or Enhanced Camshaft Braking System. But the more one gets accustomed to this type of equipment, the easier it becomes to be an expert in this type of operation. And with that, this concludes this presentation of the Year in Review for 2025. 2026 is here, and we have a lot to look forward to this year. We got the Winter Olympics in Milan, Italy in February. The FIFA World Cup will be played here in North America this summer. And on July 4th, the USA celebrates 250 years of existence. As for me, I have a few resolutions myself, and hopefully I will keep them. One of them is to try to take more photos and video to continue growing this channel and providing you with top-notch content. May 2026 be a great year for each and every one of us. Thank you for watching this presentation. Until our next encounter.